These TikTok edits look so good. I want to make one myself, you think? So you go ahead, install After Effects and open it up, only to see all of these confusing buttons. Where do I even start? If only there was someone who could help me. Well, don't worry, because after watching this video, you'll know exactly how to make this fan edit of your favorite character so you can go viral. Let's go. The first thing we see when opening up After Effects is this exact window, and here we have to make a very important decision. Start by clicking on New Composition, and we want to pick a resolution that actually fits with our edit. Because I want to have this nice square look, I'm gonna go for 1080 by 1080, but there's a ton of different resolution sizes you can pick from. For example, 1080 by 1450, 1080 by 1920, or like in this case, 1080 by 1080. All of them look a bit different, just pick which one you like most. For the frame rate, we're gonna put 60 FPS, and the duration is gonna be dependent on how long you want your edit to be. In my case, I'm gonna go for 27 seconds, but don't worry, you can change this later as well. Press on OK, and we will be met with this beautiful screen. Right now, our preview is black because we haven't imported any footage. And to actually start editing, we're gonna need a sound that we want to use as our song, and then of course some clips of our character. For the song, you can choose whatever you like, and if you have trouble finding clips of your character, I recommend you search for scene packs on either Discord or Instagram. I'll leave you the one I use in the description. Once you downloaded both, we're going to select them in our folder and drag them into our project panel inside of After Effects right here. Once they have appeared, we can start by selecting the song and just dragging it onto our timeline like so. And our first editing step is going to be marking our beat drops, so we actually know when our edit is supposed to start and when the clips should change. I recommend you grab your headphones because we're going to have to listen to our audio. I'm going to begin at the point where I want my edit to start, and we're going to right click onto our sound layer, then go to Keyframe Assistant and click on Convert Audio to Keyframes. That will leave us with a new red layer, and by clicking this, then pressing U on our keyboard, we can bring up all of the keyframes. Within these keyframes, we're going to select the both channel slider and then open the graph editor right here. As you can see, it looks very confusing, but what this basically means is that right here where the first spike is going up, our first beat drop is located. All we got to do to remember these beat drops is move our time indicator to the first spike. You can also zoom in a bit to make it easier, and then we're going to mark this point by heading to the right and clicking onto this marker symbol. As you can see, it will create a numbered marker, number 1, and we can continue this for all of the following spikes because every spike is going to be one beat drop, which means next I'm going to go to the second spike right here, and again on the right side click onto this marker symbol to create marker number 2. Now you got to mark all the beat drops you want to use in your audio. Just make sure you listen along so you can verify that there's actually a beat drop happening. Once that's done, our timeline should look something like this. You can see I have 9 total beat drops, and we can now close the graph editor and delete this top layer by just clicking on delete because we no longer need it. The next step, where a lot of people confuse, is going to be finding our clips. That means an intro scene and of course the clips that we want to have play in our edit. For that, just head back to your project panel and select the scene pack that we imported with the song earlier. Drag it onto the timeline like so, and the first thing you may realize is that it's way too zoomed in. As you can see, it doesn't fit at all. That's because movies and series are shot on a different resolution than we're using for our edit. To fix that, press S on your keyboard and then decrease this value until it fits inside your screen. The next problem is going to be that our timeline is way too short to actually preview the entire scene pack. For most characters, the scene pack is going to be up to 1 hour long, and because our timeline is just roughly 30 seconds, we obviously can't move ahead to the scene that we want to use. So instead of using this big timeline, we're going to double click onto our footage layer, which as you can see will give us a whole new preview where we can also see our scene pack in full size. Another thing you may notice is that underneath our preview, we have a second timeline that's very small compared to the big one. Inside of this, we also have a mini time indicator, which we can now use to just move ahead throughout the entire scene pack. And because my scene is at the very end, I'm going to move to the end where I want my edit to start. And once I found the right scene I want to use, I'm going to go to the bottom and click onto this bracket once. As you can see, if we look back on our main timeline, our layer was automatically cut to start at that point of time. So now when we play ahead, we can actually watch the scene as well. Now that we found the intro, we have to go to the editing part and start finding all of our clips. So move the time indicator to the very first beat drop right here and cut the layer once by pressing Ctrl Shift and D. Now we have this bottom layer, which is just our intro, and this top layer where we can find the rest of the clips. Doing this is pretty similar to the intro. We're just going to double click onto this top layer again, and now we can just use the time indicator on our mini timeline to just search the scene pack for the first scene we want to use, which in my case is going to be this one. Once we found our first clip, again we're going to press onto this bracket once. We only want this clip to last for 1 beat drop, so we're going to go to beat drop marker number 2 right here, and then cut the layer again by pressing Ctrl Shift and D. Now re-click onto the top layer and repeat this process until you found all the clips you want to use in your edit. Ideally, we found all the clips and technically we're ready to edit, but we have to enable a few more settings before we can actually start. The first change we want to make is obviously position our clips right, because as you can see, this clip might look fine, but if we go ahead a bit further, this clip is completely moved out of the center of the screen, which means that if we upload this edit like that, we won't be able to see our character. To fix it, we're going to select this clip, press P on our keyboard, and then decrease or increase this value on the left until our character is in the middle of our screen. Again, repeat this process for all of your clips, including the one in your intro. Now that we aligned the clips, we're going to select all of them, including our intro, then head to the left side right here and enable this one check mark for motion blur, and right next to it, click the box twice to enable frame blending. By doing doing this, our edit will look way smoother and adjust to the frame rate our composition has. The second thing we want to do here is only select the clips, so unselect the intro, and then click the speaker symbol to mute the clips. The reason why we need to do this is because once our edit starts playing, we don't want any background noise from the clips that we isolated here. The last thing, and I promise the last thing before we can actually add our first effect, is going to be pre-composing and isolating all of the clips. Doing that is pretty simple. Start with the intro, right click, then go to pre-compose, select this bottom option and enable this check mark, then press onto OK, and repeat this process for all the clips individually. Once we pre-composed, our timeline will already look way more organized and sorted. And like I said, now we can add our first effect. For that, I'm going to zoom into my editing part so it's a bit easier for you to see. And the first effect we want to add is called Twixtor, which will add a smooth velocity and transition between our clips. To edit, go to your effects and presets and search for Twixtor Pro. And if you can't find this effect inside of your After Effects, make sure you download it from my Discord server. Select the normal Twixtor Pro and drag it on your first clip. Inside of the settings, disable in FPS as out FPS and replace the frame rate with whatever frame rate your clips have, in my case 60 FPS. For the image prep, select contrast/edge enhance. The frame interpolation we're going to put to motion weighted blend, and warping we're going to put to inverse with smart blend. Once you applied all of these settings, we're going to set our first speed keyframe by clicking on here. Very important, make sure you do this at the start of your clip. Then change the value from 100 to 250. Press U on your keyboard to bring up the keyframe and move to the middle of your clip right here. For the second keyframe, we're going to put the value from 250 down to 60, and the third and final keyframe is going to be at the end of our clip, and we're going to set this value back up to 250. Now we should have 3 keyframes, as you can see right here, and because right now our velocity looks like it's been made on goofy ass CapCut, we're going to change the graph. Select the keyframes, right click, go to keyframe assistant, and then click on easy ease. Open the graph editor, and the graph we want to use here is the following. Start by clicking onto the top value and drag this handle straight down all the way to the bottom. The bottom value in the middle we're going to drag towards the left like this. For the other side, same thing, start at the top and drag this handle straight down to the bottom. For the bottom handle, just drag that towards the right until it meets this point right here. If your graph looks something like this, you can close the graph editor, and now we're going to have to apply this animation for all of our clips. But don't worry, you don't have to do this over and over again. To do it way faster, just select your keyframes, then left click onto the Twixtor effect, press Ctrl and C to copy, and then go to the beginning of the next clip. Select your clip and press Ctrl and V. After it's done loading, you can press U and the keyframes should appear on this clip as well. One thing that you need to watch out for is the length of the keyframes. As you can see, when I zoom in a bit more, my keyframes are a bit longer than my clip. That's because the first clip was a bit longer than the second one, and it's very important that the last keyframe matches with the last frame of our clip. To fix that, select all of the keyframes, hold down your Alt key, and then drag them towards the left or right if your clip is longer, until they fit with the end of it. Make sure you repeat this process and apply Twixtor to all of your clips. And once that's done, it's time to add the second effect, which is going to be a smooth zoom in. Like the name already says, it will make the clip zoom into the character's face and therefore make the transitions look more seamless and also add some movement on top. For this, we're going to go to effects and presets and search the S_blur curves effect. Again, if you can't find this effect inside of your After Effects, make sure you download it from my Discord server. Drag S_blur curves onto your first clip, and we want to make sure our time indicator is at the very start of it. Then go to the Z distance setting and set a keyframe right here. Because we want to zoom in, we're going to leave this value how it is. Then we're going to press U on our keyboard to reveal the keyframe and move to the end of our clip right here. This time we're going to set the value from 1 down to 0.6, which will actually make the clip zoom in. As you can see, this zooms in a lot, but if you want to use a zoom that's a bit more subtle and zooms in less, I recommend you put this value to 0.8. In this case, I think a lot of zoom looks good, so I'm going to go for 0.6. Another setting that a lot of people disregard is the center X and Y. The reason why we want to use this is because, as you can see right now, it's just zooming into his neck because that's in the middle of the screen. And by decreasing the value on the right, you can see it kind of zooms in onto his face more. So if your character's face is more towards the middle of the clip, you might need to put less. In my case, I'm going to go for 230. Again, we don't want to look like corny CapCut editors, so I'm going to zoom in to change the graph. Start by selecting the keyframes, right click, go to keyframe assistant and easy ease. Then open up the graph editor, and we will start at the top handle by just dragging it diagonally down like this. Make sure you don't put it all the way to the left and you keep a little bit of an angle here. And then we're going to reverse this for the bottom one. So this time just drag this one right up, again with a slight angle here. And once the graph looks like this, close the graph editor. And similar to before, we want to apply this effect to all of our clips. So we're going to select both the keyframes, left click onto our S_blur curves effect, press Ctrl and C, then move our time indicator to the beginning of the next clip and press Ctrl and V to paste them. Don't forget to double check if the keyframes actually line up, which you can see they don't. So I'm going to select them again, hold down my Alt key and drag them towards the left so they fit. Repeat this process for all of your clips. We now have the effects applied to the clips, which already makes the edit look way cooler, as you can see right here. One thing I'm missing though is a nice transition between our intro and our editing part. As you can see right here, it's just very blunt and it starts instantly with the zoom in. To fix that and make it look a bit cooler, I'm gonna start by zooming in, then I'm gonna go to the top, click on layer, new, and select solid. Make sure the color is set to white and then press onto OK. Now I'm gonna cut this layer approximately 15 frames after and 15 frames before our transition is happening right here. Delete all the long extra parts so we're only left with this short snippet right here. Press T on your keyboard and set a keyframe at the beginning for the opacity value number 0. Very important, move to the exact point where your first clip starts and put the value up to 100%. The last keyframe is going to be at the end, and like before, we're going to put that down to 0. This will give us a cool white flash, but because right now it looks like it's been made on goofy ass CapCut, we're going to change the graph by selecting the keyframes, then easy easing, and inside of the graph editor, we want to copy a graph that looks like this. Start on the left side and drag this bottom handle to the right like that. The top one I'm also going to drag a bit towards the right like this, and then the top one on the right I'm going to drag down like this, again at a slight angle, and the bottom one I'm just going to extend towards the left like this. I also want to combine this with a slight shake, so I'm going to go to layer, new, and create an adjustment layer. Cut it to the exact same time that our solid layer is, and then delete the extra parts. And the effect we want to use here is called S_shake, so go to effects and presets and search for S_shake. Again, if you can't find it, join my Discord server. Drag it on top of the adjustment layer and then set a keyframe right where the clips cut for the amplitude. Reduce the value from 1 down to 0.5, then put the frequency from 8 up to 12 and enable the checkmark that says motion blur. Press U to bring up the keyframes and then move to the beginning of our adjustment layer. At this point, we want the shake to be 0, so we're going to put the amplitude from 0.5 down to 0. Same thing we want at the end. Right here it's supposed to be over, so we're going to put the amplitude from 0.5 down to 0. Select the keyframes, you already know why, and then easy ease them to open up the graph editor. Start with the bottom left and just drag it towards the middle like that. Keep the top one how it is, then click onto the bottom right and also extend it towards the middle for about the same amount. Our editing part is done, our transition between intro and editing part is done, but the intro itself still looks like it's been made on corny CapCut. So the next thing we're going to do is add a nice text to actually make it a bit more engaging and pop out. To create the text, again use your headphones, and we obviously want to start at the very first sentence that's being spoken in our intro. Let's listen along.
There's one thing I couldn't be honest about last night.
So the first sentence that he's saying is, there's one thing I couldn't be honest about last night. All we got to do is put this into a text, so go to the top, click onto the text tool, and then click onto your composition right here. Start by just typing what your character is saying, and because you never want to put too much text at once, I'm just going to leave it like this for now, and then I'm going to go to the align panel, make sure I align it horizontally and vertically so our text is exactly in the middle of the screen. If your text doesn't look like mine, it looks like it's been made on goofy ass CapCut, what you have to do is select your text, then open up the character panel, and first of all, the font I recommend you use is called Arial Rounded Empty Bold. The text size should be between 35 and 45 pixels. The leading for me is 37, and I'm going to disable this bold setting. Once we customize everything, let's go back to the actual text itself, and we need to fit the rest of what he's saying. Next, he's saying honest about last night, so we have to put this in a different text. To do that, I'm going to cut my text layer at the point where he's about to say the next two words. Just press Ctrl Shift and D. Now inside of this top layer, we're just going to replace the words with what he's saying next. In my case, that's honest about, and I want the about to be a bit bigger, so I'm going to select it and then just increase the text size like this. Make sure you repeat this process for all the text that is being spoken in your intro. Just make sure that you don't add too much text at once, and you can definitely get away with splitting one sentence into multiple text layers. Now that we added all of our text, our timeline will look way more packed, like me, and we will get to the real deal, which is adding our text animations. Start with your first text layer, and the preset I like to use here is called Slow Fade On. Just go to Effects and Presets and search for Slow Fade On. It's automatically inside of your After Effects, and then drag it onto your text layer. What's important if you use a preset like this is that your time indicator has to be at the point where your character starts speaking, because if you press U, you can see my keyframes will be applied right where my time indicator is located. The way this animation works is, as you can see, it created two keyframes. The first one being the point where our text is 0% visible, and the second one is going to be the point where our text is fully visible. The second keyframe is moved way too far ahead, so I'm just going to grab this and drag it towards the left until it roughly fits my expectations. Another thing I'm going to do for this text is extend the text layer like this. The reason we want to do this here is because I want the text to kind of overlap and look a bit smoother. I want the first text layer still to be visible when the second one is appearing. Don't worry, it will look a bit better later. Let's focus on this one text layer first. I'm just going to disable the two others, and this is what the animation looks like now.
There's one thing I couldn't be honest about.
Once it finished appearing, we obviously needed to disappear again, and we don't want it to just pop out like this. So we'll add the opposite of this effect, which is called Fade Out Slow. Again, just search for it and then drag it onto your text layer. Press U on your keyboard and then adjust the keyframes so that it actually fits with the end of your layer. First text layer is done. Let's make the second one, and for this we want to bring some special effects into it. To work a bit cleaner, I'm going to disable the one in the background right now and just focus on this. For this, I want two separate animations, so I'm going to duplicate it once by pressing Ctrl and D, and then on the top layer, we're going to delete the bottom word. Just select the bottom one, the about, and delete it. For the layer on the bottom, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to delete the word on the top. What this will do is now leave you with two text layers that are just essentially essentially one word at a time. The top one we're just gonna keep simple, and again apply the slow fade on effect like this. Press U on your keyboard and adjust the keyframes so it actually fits. But for the second one we want it to look special, so I'm gonna move a few frames ahead right here and search the effect called alternating characters in. Like all of the other effects, it's a standard After Effects preset, and we're gonna drag this on top of our second layer. The reason I love using this is because it will give us this nice text animation where each character is floating in one by one. Only thing that's important is that we obviously adjust the timing. So like before, I'm gonna press U on my keyboard and extend these layers a bit so they actually are visible throughout the whole speech of the character. Making them fade out is gonna be the same. So again, search for fade out slow. Start by dragging it onto the top layer, press U on your keyboard, and then adjust these keyframes with the end. And do the same thing for the bottom layer, just drag it on top, press U on your keyboard, and adjust the keyframes so they fit with the end. What we also don't want is our text to just be in a plain color. You can see right now all of it is just white. So what we're gonna do is add a nice texture. I'm gonna start with the word about, and inside of effects and presets, I'm gonna search for s_texture, fold it. Again, if you can't find it, join my Discord server. Drag it on top of the text layer you wanna change the color of, and start by putting the frequency from 4 to 10. Then the octaves, I'm gonna put from 1 to 10 as well. For the color number 1, I'm gonna click onto this white box and then select the nice yellow. For the color number 0, I wanna use a little bit of a darker orange like this. The only thing that you will have to watch out for here is that you put a nice contrast in between of these colors. So if you just use a red and a red, your text is gonna be red. By choosing yellow and orange, you can see we have a little bit of a texture going on. Last thing we wanna do is put the fold speed X from 960 down to 67. There is a ton of different text animations you can use. If I show you all of them, this video will be 20 hours long. If you wanna learn some more advanced text effects, make sure you watch this tutorial I made a couple of weeks ago, where I teach you a few cooler and more complex text effects. For now, make sure you use these text effects and apply them to all of your text layers. Once we applied all of the text effects, the next thing you might realize is that our text still looks pretty boring and it doesn't have any effects on top. So the next thing we want to do is add our text effects. Before we do that, similar to the clips, we want to pre-compose our layers first, especially because we have multiple text layers for one line of text, which otherwise will mess up our text effects. So start by right-clicking onto the first text layer, click on pre-compose, select the bottom option, enable this checkmark, and then press onto OK. If like in my case, you have two text layers for the same line of text, what you have to do is select both of them and then pre-compose them together by right-clicking, pre-compose, select the bottom option, enable this checkmark, and then press onto OK, which will both put them into one pre-composition. Repeat this for all of your text layers and make sure that they're all nice and pre-composed. Once that's done, the first effect I want to add is a little bit of a zoom in so that our text doesn't just stay stiff at one place. For that, just select the pre-composition and press S on your keyboard. Set a keyframe for the scaling at the very beginning, just leave it at 100. Then go to the end of the text layer, even if it's overlapping, and put the value from 100 up to 110%. Depending on how big and how much zoom in you want, you can obviously play around with these values, but this is the one I like. Then I'm going to select both keyframes, press Ctrl and C to copy them, go to the beginning of my next text layer, select it, press Ctrl and V to paste, and then make sure they line up with the end of your text layer. Also make sure you add the same scaling keyframes we just created to all of your text layers so they have a nice unity and don't look out of place. Once that's done, the first actual effect we're going to apply is called a drop shadow. Search for it and then drag the normal one onto your text layer. Set the opacity from 50 to 100%, leave the distance at 5, and put the softness to 15. And on the second drop shadow, put the softness from 15 up to 100. Then copy both the drop shadows by selecting them and pressing Ctrl and C, and apply them to all the other text layers by selecting them all at once and then just pressing Ctrl and V. One more thing I want to do for the first text layer is I want to kind of have it slide in from the left side of the screen because it's the first one and I want to do something special. So I'm going to press P on my keyboard, right click onto the position value and separate the dimensions. Then I'm going to go to the beginning of the text layer right here and set keyframes for both of these values and drag the ones we just created a bit towards the right like this. Then just decrease the X position so that the text kind of moves to the left. And because we want it to look a bit smoother, we're going to select the keyframes, easy ease, and then drag this bottom handle right up to the top like this. For the next text effect, we're going to select all of the pre-compositions which have our text layers inside and pre-compose them again. So right click, then go to pre-compose, select the bottom option, enable this check mark, and press onto OK. This will just put them all into one pre-composition, and now we can just apply our effects to one layer instead of having to apply them over and over again. Start by searching for bevel alpha, drag it on top of the pre-composition, and put the edge thickness from 2 down to 1. Then the most important effect is going to be deep glow. Again, if you can't find it, join my Discord server, and also drag it onto the pre-composition. For the settings, we're going to put the radius from 500 up to 1000, and the exposure we're going to put from 1 down to 0.1. And now you can see our text already looks way cooler. But we're not done with the intro yet. What I want to add as well is a nice zoom out at the very start of my edit. For that, I'm just going to move the pre-composition a bit down so it's underneath of our clips. Then I'm going to go to the top, click on layer, new, and select null object. Cut it after about 3 seconds and delete everything that comes past here. Now what we will do is select both our intro layer and the one with our texts and use this pick whip tool, the small spiral, to link it to our null object right here. Then select the null object, go to the beginning and press S on your keyboard. Set a keyframe for the scaling right here and we're just going to increase this until it's a bit zoomed in. I'm going to go for 165%. Go to the end of the null object and then put the scaling back up to 100%. Next, I also want a small rotation, so I'm going to go back to the beginning, press R on my keyboard, set a keyframe for the rotation and just put put the value to -25. Again, move to the end of the null object and put the value down to 0, so it's back straight. Now press U to bring up all of the keyframes, and we're going to select the keyframes, right click, go to Keyframe Assistant, and Easy Ease. Start with the scaling ones and open the graph editor. The graph we want to use here is very important. We don't want it to look super slow, so we're going to drag this handle straight down like that, and then this one all the way to the left. Very important, enable motion blur also for the null object. And now our intro looks already way better.
There's one thing I couldn't be honest about last night.
The next and by far most important part is going to be adding a good color correction. As you can see, adding a good color correction can make your edit look 100 times better. And if you want to get my exact color correction I use to make my edits look the best as possible, make sure you check the first link in the description because I'm still running a huge opportunity in my shop. Due to your guys' amazing support, you can still save an extra 10% on the already ongoing 70% sale by using the code SUMMER10. So if you're an editor and you finally want to go viral, don't miss out on this one-time opportunity. Limited time offer. Once we edit our high quality color correction, we next have to loop our editing part. That's because after it's done playing for the first time, we want it to play again. So we're going to zoom in onto all of these clips. We're going to select them all at once and then pre-compose them by right-clicking, pre-compose, select the bottom option and enable this check mark. This will just put them all together. Now we can press Ctrl and D to duplicate it once and then make it fit with the end of the first editing part like so. At the point of the loop, I also want to reuse our animation we did with the shake and white solid. So I'm going to select both these layers, also press Ctrl and D to duplicate them and then just drag them ahead and make sure that they fit. Press U on your keyboard and look that they actually fit with the cut where the second part is starting to play. Because I don't want goofy CapCut editors to steal my edit, I'm also going to add my 3D outro. And to now get our amazing edit out of After Effects, we're going to head to the top, click on composition and then add to render queue. In here, you need to use the right settings, otherwise it will fry your quality. So start by clicking onto where it says match render settings. And in this pop-up, instead of H.264 as a format, select QuickTime. Then give your edit a name and finally click on render. Rendering might take a while depending on how fast your PC is. And once you're done rendering, congratulations, you just finished an amazing After Effects edit. If you're still confused and you want to learn After Effects and editing on a more personalized and effective way, make sure you check out my school community, second link in the description, where you get hour-long exclusive video courses made by me and weekly live calls where I give you feedback to your edits and create any effect for you that you need. You also get my outro, this edit, and a ton of other project files for free on top. If this video helped you, make sure you like and subscribe. It would really make my day. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.